Welcome to the DAV Podcast. What if your morning cup of coffee could do more than just wake you up? On this podcast, Elizabeth DePompei talks with Carl Churchill, an Army veteran and the chief coffee officer behind Alpha Coffee, a company that's redefining what it means to be a coffee business. Carl talks about his impactful experience at DAV's Patriot Boot Camp and tells us about Alpha Coffee, from its inspiring origins on 9/11 to its unwavering commitment to veterans and to our community. Alpha Coffee has a story you need to hear.
What is Alpha Coffee and how did it come to be?
Yeah, so Alpha Coffee is a different kind of coffee company. My wife, Lori, and I started this on September 11th, 2010. We started it with a mission to provide great coffee and then to also give back. So right from the start, we wanted to have a component where we were serving others in our community. Our initial focus was veterans. We've since expanded that to be community, women-focused groups, planet-based things. We like to protect wild places. That was part of my personal therapy from serving 21 years in the military with multiple combat tours. Love the outdoors. And so, yeah, that's, and we really believe that being a small business and being a business owner brings with it a responsibility to the community to be part of the solution.
So obviously I have to think that your military service inspired, parts of Alpha Coffee, but what was the thing that triggered, okay, I want to get into business, and why coffee?
Actually, as is often the case, it was a challenge. What happened was back in 2009, I was partners in a software company. I was the COO, and we had grown tremendously. We'd had a bunch of success. We did software as a service. So we were a cloud-based software company that serviced the construction mortgage sector. And along came the Great Recession of 2008, 2009. And we went from a $10 million offer to buy our company to being bankrupt 6 months later. And so I found myself during the Great Recession unemployed, with hiring freezes everywhere. And so Lori and I sat down and we said, nobody's coming to save us. We got to do it ourselves. And after burning through our emergency savings, we said, we got to start our own thing. And we were literally sitting down drinking coffee that my brother-in-law had roasted. And I said, you know what? Josh's coffee is so delicious. I have this crazy idea. What if we got Josh to roast for us? We could sell it online. We could do everything out of the basement. We can break every child labor law there is and use the kids as our employees and not pay them. And we can get ourselves out of a very sticky situation. So that's how we did it. We started. We really didn't know what we were doing. We knew what we liked about coffee, but we didn't know anything about the coffee industry. And yeah, we started selling online. Eventually, we had to move out of the basement because we had gotten to a size where we needed to have more room. And we opened our first coffee shop so that we could ship out of the back. And then we subsequently opened up a couple more, ended up shutting one down. And here we are now with 34 employees, 2.7 million in sales last year. We've donated over 22,000 bags of coffee to deployed troops. We've donated over $125,000 to nonprofits. And we wake up every day, drink great coffee, and do good things for our community.
Now's a good time to confess to you that I do not drink coffee, not a coffee drinker myself. But I had to say, I was on your website and I watched you guys had this great kind of identity video of what Alpha Coffee is. And it seems like you really put so much genuine care into the sourcing and quality and how everything is prepared. Can you tell me a little bit about your philosophy of the kind of product you want to offer people?
Absolutely. Yeah. So our mission statement is 4 bullet points: awesome coffee, be a warrior, have fun, and give back. So awesome coffee is first for a reason. There are a number of veteran-owned coffee companies, and we wish them all great success because we're all competing against Starbucks. But for us, we want to be more than, sort of a veteran-owned coffee company. First of all, we're a veteran and woman co-owned coffee company. My wife is a huge part of the business, and I really honor her partnership with me in building this. And when we started it, we said, it's got to be great coffee. People may come and decide to try us out based on who we are, but they're going to come back if the coffee is good. For good coffee, you need to source it from great sources. You need to roast it to perfection. And then you need to train your team how to properly grind, tamp, prepare, and serve coffee. We seek out the best coffees around the world. I deployed to Central America in the mid-'80s and fell in love with that flavor profile, the kind of chocolatey, nutty coffee that you get from Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Costa Rica. So that is like, if we had an identity, it would be that a super smooth coffee with rich, bold flavor, but with that chocolatey, nutty flavor profile. We do buy coffees from all over the world, and we always buy the top end, the top 2% of all coffee, the Arabica, 100% Arabica. And then we roast it in a way where we don't over roast like some companies. We try to have a very smooth roasting process to create that smooth, even flavor. We do partner with some small farms. My wife actually went to Costa Rica a few years ago and was picking coffee with a cooperative down there. And it's an incredible experience. You see what coffee does for these communities and how much care and effort goes into it. And so, yeah, for us, it's got to be great coffee. It's got to taste great. It's got to be properly roasted. And then you need to store it properly. So we make sure that we roast a couple of times a week so that it's always fresh. We wait until we get the orders in, and then we very rapidly turn them around. At this point, we have a really developed process so that people are getting coffee that's been roasted within the last week or two. And then we send it out in bags that are sealed with one-way bleeder valves so that the coffee can off-gas. When it's very freshly roasted, it's still off-gassing. But it doesn't allow the oxygen back into the bag so that it starts to degrade it. So I'm going way down the coffee nerd rabbit hole, so forgive me. But
No, I love it. Obviously, a lot of attention to detail and quality. This September then will mark 15 years
yeah.
of Alpha Coffee. What has been most rewarding for you and for Lori in this journey?
I think Lori would agree with me that one of the things that was most rewarding was doing this together and as a family. We pulled ourselves up by the bootstraps. We were in a situation where we were, having yard sales to get money for groceries. We were at the top of our game. I was an entrepreneur, so was Lori. She had a massage therapy business. We were doing great, and the recession completely knocked us off our horse. But we got back up, we jumped back on, and we did this. So that's been super rewarding to build something literally from nothing, from an idea, from two people sitting down over coffee and saying, hey, we have this crazy idea, let's make it work. And I think that is super satisfying. But part of that is the fact that we built a company that we're super proud of. where we offer our employees a great living. After they've been with us a year, they have access to a 401k where we match dollar for dollar up to 6% of their pay. And we offer healthcare reimbursement to our management team. We pay well. We create a culture here where everybody is valued. And then that give back program, being able to do things for charities that are nonprofits that are doing great work in the communities, like DAV. I mean, I'm a lifetime member of DAV, and I love what DAV does and how it helps veterans. And so that's our commitment to DAV and to Patriot Boot Camp, is to give back and be part of the solution.
Okay, so now I'm going to ask you the flip side of that question. Over the 15 years, what's been most challenging?
Yeah, I think the definition of an entrepreneur is somebody who goes from one setback to the next with no loss of enthusiasm.
Hmm.
And that's really kind of the story of Alpha, whether it was getting our first SBA loan where it was approved, then it wasn't approved, and then we had to fight to get it approved again, getting COVID hitting us right after we opened up our second shop and having to quickly adapt and figure out how to do that. And then, when inflation hit and, we go through probably about 200 gallons of milk a week between our two shops. And when, inflation hit and the price of milk went up, the price of eggs went up, and, we had to very quickly react. And you can't just raise the price on your drinks every week. All of those challenges are difficult. Hiring and retaining employees is difficult in the current environment where we're at max employment and people can walk out the door and get a job the very next day or the same day someplace else. All of that is a challenge. Lori and I talk a lot about just that positive focus and just, Helen Keller said, if you keep your face to the sun, you don't see the shadows. And that's what we do. We're just, every day we wake up excited to overcome the latest challenge. So
a moment ago, you mentioned Patriot Boot Camp.
yeah.
So when and why did you first get involved with Patriot Boot Camp, and what was that first experience like?
I don't remember the exact year. I remember it was in Manhattan because we got an Airbnb that was ridiculously expensive, but it was worth the trip out and, paying for that Airbnb because the instruction we got, the community that we joined, just the ideas and the camaraderie that you get with a bunch of other veteran and military spouse entrepreneurs is invaluable. When we went there, we were at that point just online. We just had our online shop, and it was at Patriot Boot Camp that we really had this idea of taking it further and really trying to grow the business. And we were motivated by the people around us and the speakers they brought in to really double down and grow the business. And that's when we made the decision that, hey, we got to get out of the basement. That and the fact that people were saying, hey, I want to swing by your warehouse and see you guys, to pick up the coffee. And we were like, that's our basement. So we needed a place to grow. So yeah, Patriot Boot Camp. And that's why we want to give back as graduates of Patriot Boot Camp. We just feel an obligation that somebody gave us a hand up. So we want to be there for other veteran and military spouse entrepreneurs.
And so after you graduated from the program, you returned as a mentor or speaker, is that right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So have done both. Whenever Patriot Boot Camp is out in Utah, we're always there. And my plan is to get out there to your headquarters for a future Patriot Boot Camp and really try and help out there as well.
Yeah, and I know you've also graciously donated coffee to some of our cohorts that we have here.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah, you got to drink good coffee while you're out there at DAV. So we want to make sure people are, drinking coffee that it was the same concept of sending coffee to troops while they were deployed downrange, was to taste of home. It's more than just a cup of coffee. It's people come together over coffee, and we want people during Patriot Boot Camp to make those connections and to talk over coffee and talk over great coffee. So
What advice do you have for alumni of the program? Because I think you can get all this amazing, programming and education and mentorship and opportunity, but it's what you do with it after, right?
yeah.
What would be your biggest piece of advice for alumni?
So one thing that I really recommend doing is I've started doing journaling. I listened to a podcast called From the Green Notebook, Joe Byerly. We used to sponsor it. Now he's got like big name people that are sponsoring it. Joe is a great guy and he recommends journaling. And so I've started to do that. And I realized that before we journaled, when I went to Patriot Boot Camp, I just wrote all these notes, all these ideas, all this stuff while you were there. And then you get back and you're in the middle of your business and you kind of forget about it and you just get caught up in the day to day of putting out fires. And I remembered in reading a book while I was on active duty called We Were Soldiers Once and Young by Hal Moore, where he talked about being a commander on a drop zone, on a landing zone, LZ X-ray in Vietnam. And he's in the middle of the fight of his life. But every once in a while, he'd turn off all the radios and sit down and think like, what am I doing? What do I need to be doing? That sort of thing. And I thought, we need to do that in our business as well. We need to just like take half a day and don't look at email, don't answer any texts, and just focus on what do I need to do to plan. And so when we came back from Patriot Boot Camp, I did that. And that's what journaling is for, is like you're writing ideas, then you go back and you look at it and you think about it. And that planning and that reshuffling of priorities, I think, is really critical. So go to Patriot Boot Camp, get all the information, write everything down, all your ideas. And if you want to voice note or do whatever it is, do that. But then after you get back and you've got a week or two, then sit down and spend half a day going over that and formulating your plan and then executing it.
And then for you, again, looking kind of at the past 15 years, what role has mentorship played for you, or having access to a community like Patriot Boot Camp with fellow veterans and fellow entrepreneurs? Kind of big picture, how do you think that has served you as an entrepreneur?
No, it's critical. One of the things I told you what our mission statement was, but then we have 10 rules of engagement that define our culture. And the very first one is we win as a team. That's something that came out of the military, is you're only, at a very high level, you need combined arms, you need the other branches, you need all of that strategically. And then, you come down to the operational and even the tactical level at the smallest unit, the squad level in the Army. You have different people with different roles. In special operations, a special operations team has specialists in each area. And so when you're doing something as an entrepreneur, you can't do it alone. You have to win as a team, and you have people on your team that help you with that, but you as the leader need help outside of the team as well. So having that network of people that you can reach out to, that you can ask questions of, having access to information, whether it's like podcasts or guests that come on that are hosted, those things, it's inspiration, but it's also finding that information that may be just what you need to solve a problem you're dealing with.
Tell me a little bit more about your military service, when and why you joined.
I was a young kid. My mom was a German national. My father met her when he was stationed over there. They got married. I was born. I grew up on military bases. My stepdad was a Vietnam vet. He was a ranger in Vietnam. And so I grew up around all these warriors, on military bases. And, post Vietnam, I was 17 in 1979. I raised my right hand, joined the Army, wanted to prove myself. Subsequently got a scholarship, commissioned, and then did 21 years, retired as a colonel. I was with 9th Infantry, 3rd Infantry, 1st Armor, and then Special Operations Command, and a couple of other units, and multiple deployments, peacekeeping, combat, humanitarian. So I did a little bit of everything, and I wouldn't say I loved every minute of it, but I loved it, and I loved serving, and so when I retired back in 2006, I just decided that I wanted to keep giving back in some way, keep serving in some way. Yeah, and that's what we've done, and we're really proud of what we've created and what we've done, and I'm proud of my service. And our son is now with the Utah National Guard. He's with the 19th Special Forces Group. He's he was enlisted like I was, and then commissioned, and and we hire a number of veterans. We have a number of veteran-owned companies that we sell their products in our shops, or that we have their services. We just started using a veteran who started his own company doing preventative maintenance and equipment repair, and we're working with him and helping him to build his business.
Well, thank you for your service. And something that we talk a lot about at DAV Patriot Boot Camp is so many of these founders are very mission driven. They're service minded. They want to continue serving and giving back in some way. And I think you and Lori and Alpha Coffee really illustrate that. What's next? What's next for the two of you? What's next for Alpha Coffee?
Yeah, well, Alpha has, basically we have three profit and loss centers, three P&Ls. So our online sales, our wholesale, and then our brick and mortar shops. So brick and mortar, we're exploring the opportunity with somebody here locally of doing kind of a hybrid type of shop where they run the shop. It's a fully Alpha Coffee branded coffee shop. So we're exploring that, not kind of an owner operator franchise model.
Right.
So that's very preliminary. We worry about making sure that the culture remains. We don't want somebody who's an investor just to come in, pay the fees, and then not follow the culture that we've created here.
Yeah.
So that we're looking at that. Our online continues to grow, and we feel like there's a lot of opportunity. A lot of people have never even heard of Alpha Coffee. They've never tried our coffee. So we're trying to grow our online sales even further. And then our wholesale is actually an area of a lot of growth. We have a lot of veteran, but also some non-veteran folks that have reached out to us and said, hey, I've always wanted to open my own coffee shop, and we want to offer great coffee. And so I've had your coffee and I'd like to serve it in my coffee shop. So we have a number of, and what's interesting, and it's a number of husband and wife combos that have done that, whether it's roasted out in Olmsted Falls, Ohio, or coffee at the crossing right outside of Indianapolis, another veteran and wife co-owned. And then our latest is Buckaroo's Coffee out in Reno, Nevada. Veteran and actually two veterans, husband and wife team, both former Marine Corps vets, and they've started their coffee business out there. So yeah, we love doing that. We love growing it. Yeah, we just keep keep doing what we're doing,
Yeah. Carl, that's all I have. Anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I just want to encourage people that are interested in being entrepreneurs and interested in Patriot Boot Camp, go for it. You're going to work harder than you've ever worked before, but you're going to love it. You're going to be your own boss. It's a great way to go post-service.
Alpha Coffee, a company that truly embodies the spirit of service we champion here at DAV. Carl's dedication to giving back, particularly to the veteran community, resonates deeply with our mission. If you were moved by Carl's story and Alpha Coffee's commitment, we encourage you to learn more about their work and perhaps even enjoy a cup of their exceptional coffee. And of course, we invite you to explore the resources and support DAV provides to our nation's veterans. And for more information on Patriot Boot Camp, just go to patriotbootcamp.org. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next time.